when we do a clean bulk, you really should only be eating about 20% above your maintenance level of calories. If you are eating 20% above your maintenance level of calories and your workouts are effective, you're following a consistent training routine, you're training towards muscle failure, getting really close to muscle failure, you're eating enough protein, if you stay at just 20% above your maintenance level of calories, that will ensure that the majority of the weight gain that you see is actually muscle gains versus fat storage. Hey there, welcome to the Coaching Corner podcast. I'm Jade Harrison, aka Jaydigains. I've created this podcast to share with you some of the tips and wisdom that I picked up along the way during my over 10 years as a personal trainer and fitness coach. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you a discussion that I had with my Twitch chat when I was live on my Twitch channel. One of the chatters was asking whether she should consider going into a bulk phase. Now, I thought that this discussion was a really great follow-up to one of the previous episodes of the Coaching Corner podcast where I talked about the signs that you should look for if your body is in a recomp. And in that episode, I do explain the difference between a recomp phase versus a bulking phase and a cutting phase. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about what to expect when you're in a bulking phase. Now, bulking phase means that you're specifically focusing on building muscle. And in this episode, I share some tips for how to go about doing a bulk, eating a calorie surplus to prioritize building muscle while minimizing the amount of fat that your body gains while you're in this phase. So I hope that you enjoy this discussion and that you find it helpful for your own fitness journey. Now, before we get into the episode, make sure that you subscribe to this channel if you're watching this episode on YouTube, and make sure to hit the like button for the video. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure that you follow the show so that you get notified anytime I drop a new episode. If you would like some more information on me and the services that I offer, make sure to head over to my website. That's jaydigains.com, jaydigains.com. I do have a membership site that you can sign up for to get training tips, nutrition tips, recipe collections, meal plans, and training programs. And I drop new content in that every single week. You can also join my email list by going to my website. Now, without further ado, let's get into the episode and talk about what to expect when you're in a bulk phase and how to minimize fat gains while you're in your bulk. You want to consider bulking your body weight to increase strength, but you're unsure if you should, as you're concerned it'll undo the balance of your diet. Yes, things to think about. I think this is worth talking about because I did want to kind of do a little series of discussions on different phases of your diet, of different phases of your fitness to go through. A couple episodes ago on the Coaching Corner podcast, I talked about what to expect when your body is recomping, when you are in a recomp phase where your body's doing both building muscle and burning fat, ways to measure your progress if you don't see the scale moving, because that's like super common, right? And I do touch on in that episode like how many gym goers will separate out their fitness journey is into blocks where they're, or I should say phases, where for an extended period of time, for a couple of weeks to a couple of months, they'll alternate between bulking and cutting. And bulking and cutting are kind of two opposite phases. One is mainly focused on prioritizing building muscle, and the cutting phase is where you're prioritizing burning fat. The trick with either doing a bulk or a cut is to try not to lose the progress that you've made in the other phase. So when you alternate between bulking and cutting, usually you start with bulking. So you start by prioritizing building muscle. And there's a good way to do this and there's a bad way to do this. The good way to do this would be, what people might call a clean bulk, right? Which is just a responsible bulk, where you're eating a calorie surplus to prioritize building muscle. Because building muscle is a very calorie expensive activity for your body. So eating a surplus helps your body to have all of the energy that it needs to make gains faster. Versus if you are eating a deficit or if you're at maintenance, you may still build muscle, but it's extremely slow. It's a lot slower than it would be if you're eating calorie surplus. So when you're eating a calorie surplus, your body has the energy that it needs to actually build muscle as fast as it can. But the trick here is to not eat so much of a surplus that you start putting on a lot of fat. And when you go into a cut phase, when you're cutting calories and you're eating a calorie deficit, the trick there is to eat enough of a deficit that your body burns fat, but you don't lose muscle, or you minimize the amount of muscle that you lose. Because when you're in a calorie deficit, your body, when your body is in a catabolic state, it's just breaking down tissue, fat, muscle, like lean tissue and fat, to get the energy that it needs. So that's the trick, right? And that's why a lot of people kind of opt for a recomp somewhere in the middle, where your calories stay close to your maintenance level, and you could still build muscle and burn fat while you're eating pretty close to your maintenance level of calories. It's just really slow. So that's kind of like the intro to like what's the difference between these like 3 types of diet phases. But let's take a look at the like precise numbers that are recommended for these phases. For the baseline, like maintenance level of calories that you should eat for your body to just stay the same, or to recomp, where you're slowly making muscle gains, slowly making fat loss gains. Your maintenance level of calories is something you kind of have to figure out by trial and error, but you can get an estimate of what your maintenance level of calories is by using an online calculator to see what your total daily energy expenditure is, TDEE. And you can do that by going to tdee.net. Oh, the one that I use is tdeecalculator.net. Yeah, this is the one that I use. I don't use that other one. I don't know if it's that good. This is the one that I use for my clients and for myself. So total daily energy expenditure calculator gives you a rough estimate of how many calories somebody of your height, your gender, weight, activity level should be able to eat without gaining or losing weight. Let's actually use, you want to use yourself in chat? Amanda, do you want me to use yours so we can kind of get like an estimate of what your maintenance calories would be? Sure. Okay, so let's fill it out together. All right, so Miss Amanda. Oh yes, and be honest when you fill it out. Miss Amanda, or I'm sorry, I'm assuming your sex. I'm sorry, most people who are named Amanda are female. Female or male, sorry. I'm sorry for assuming your gender. But just type it in chat, the gender, age, weight, height, and here are the activity level options. Sedentary, like if you have an office job and then you come home and you watch Netflix or play video games. Light exercise is 1 to 2 days a week of exercise. Maybe you go on a couple walks throughout the week. Moderate exercise is exercising 3 to 5 days a week. Nothing too crazy. Heavy exercise would be very active and you're working out really hard. Athletic or athlete would be you train 2 times a day. So female, give me age and weight as well and height. Let's see, so you have an office job, but you gym 4 days and box 2 days. So I'm gonna say that that's probably either moderate or heavy. We'll say moderate. Okay, and 27, he's a baby. And then weight and height, 210. Wait, 210. And height, 6.5. Wait, 6.5 inch, so like 6'1". We can estimate 6'1". We don't necessarily need to put in body fat percentage. It is optional for the calculation. So let's hit calculate. All right, so now keep in mind that this is just an estimated number. So someone of your size, your height, weight, gender, activity level should, in general, be able to eat 2,800-ish calories a day as your maintenance level of calories. Now, does that mean that that's your body's actual maintenance level of calories? Can you actually eat 2,800 calories a day and not gain or lose weight? that is a different question entirely. In order to answer that, you have to test this number over the course of a week to a couple of weeks to figure out what your actual maintenance level of calories is. But this is kind of a good estimation. So you want to write down what the estimation is and like kind of save that number. So I put you down as moderate exercise here. If it was heavy exercise, that would mean that you're probably going to need more calories. Yeah, so if it's heavy exercise, meaning like, working out, what was that, like 5 to 6 times a week and being pretty active, then it would be closer to about 3,000 calories a day. Now, to figure out like your body, you gotta test that number. So you can use like a calorie tracking app or a food journal. I don't know where mine is. A food journal where you basically track what you eat every day and you aim to eat 2,800 calories and then see how your body responds. You weigh yourself at the beginning of the week, do that for a week, and you can weigh yourself every day and see how your body weight trends. If your weight goes up, then that means that 2,800 is not actually your maintenance level of calories. That means that is actually above your maintenance calories because you're gaining weight with that number. So then you would adjust the amount of calories that you eat every day, bringing it down. So like you go from 2,800 to aiming for 2,600 or 2,500. Do that for a week or 2 weeks. Weigh yourself before and after, and then see how your weight trends. If it continues to go up, then that means that's still too high. That's still higher than what your actual maintenance calories is. So you keep adjusting it to the point where your body weight kind of just stays the same, or it comes back down and then it just plateaus. Where it plateaus, that's your maintenance level of calories. So you might have to adjust a couple of times, and you might find that your actual maintenance calories is like 2,200, 2,300 or something like that. Again, if your weight goes down, if you eat 2,800 and your weight goes down, then that means that that's actually a calorie deficit. So you need to try to eat more calories. So you add 100 to 250 calories, do that another week. If your weight continues to go down, keep adding more on a week-by-week basis until your weight stabilizes. And at that point, you'll know whatever you're eating at that point is your maintenance calories. Okay, so that's kind of like how you can find your maintenance calories if you're not already tracking. But you're already tracking, and you said that you're eating about 2,400 calories usually, and you're maintaining between 205 and 210, usually eating about 2,400. So how long have you been maintaining? So that's another question you want to think about. Like, if in my mind, maintaining is when that weight kind of stays fluctuating at about the same level for like 2-3 weeks at least. 3 years, okay. And you've been eating 2,400 for 3 years and it's been staying about that level. Your last bulk, you went from 190 to 205 in 2021. I see. So so for 3 years. Oh my God, 2021 was over 3 years ago. That's crazy to think about. Just a reminder of where we are. Happy 2025, everybody. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back to your original question. You want to consider bulking your body weight to increase your strength, but you're unsure if you should as you're concerned it'll undo the balance of my diet. Plus, I think I'm teetering on the high side. So we already know that you're like maintaining, right? You're maintaining where you're at. My question would be, how has your body fat percentage and the amount of muscle tissue that you have changed over the last 3 years? So you're gymming 4 days a week and you're boxing. Are you seeing progressive gains in your lifts? Like, are you able to progressively add more reps and add more weight over time? Are you sticking to a consistent routine where you can see that progress, or are you doing something different every time that you go to the gym or every week? You are seeing you're able to add more reps and more weight over time. Yeah, like bench press. Yeah. So the thing is, it is a good idea, especially if you're considering bulking, if you're considering building muscle or changing your body composition in any way. It's a good idea to stick to a specific lifting routine for a couple of weeks at a time. 6 to 12 weeks is generally what I recommend. And the reason for that is, you do the same routine, like you do the same 4-day routine every week, right? the reason for that is that gives you like some control points for data to know whether you're actually getting stronger. If you keep the routine the same on a week-by-week basis, on your push day, you know, say you do like bench press, and then you do chest flies, and then you do, you know, tricep kickbacks, etc., and you keep that order of exercises, you should, every time you train, be able to do more reps or more weight on most of the exercises. If you're seeing that happening, then that tells you that you're building muscle because you're getting stronger. If you're not tracking your actual body fat percentage, seeing your performance gains go up is a good way for you to know that even though your weight is maintaining, more of your body is muscle versus fat. And that's gains, right? So you went from being able to curl 12.5 kilos to 15, and went from benching 17.5 kilos to 20 kilos with a max of 22.5, but that's only barely 8 reps if I push it. Over what period of time? Because we want to get a little bit more scientific about between this date and that date, right? Over the last 8 weeks or over the last 3 months, you know? If you're not on an actually like, you know, blocked, progressed program, that's the first thing that I would. You think it took 6 months to reach that? Okay, good. But that is one thing that I would say before you go on this next bulk. Get on some kind of a progressed like training schedule. That way you can make sure that as you see the scale either not change or go up, you're able to see like measurably, oh, I'm able to do more weight or I'm able to do more reps on these exercises, and stick to that routine for like 6 to 12 weeks, because that is a good way for you to judge the effect of your bulk as you change how you're eating. So that's a good way for you to kind of like make sure that you're not like throwing everything out of whack and that you're not just like building fat, right? Because that is the concern when you're in a calorie surplus. A certain amount of it is likely going to go to fat storage. It's hard to avoid a little bit of fat gains. But when we do a clean bulk or a bulk the right way, you really should only be eating about 20% above your maintenance level of calories. If you are eating 20% above your maintenance level of calories and your workouts are effective, you're following a consistent training routine, you're training towards muscle failure, getting really close to muscle failure, you're eating enough protein. If you stay at just 20% above your maintenance level of calories, that will ensure that the majority of the weight gain that you see is actually muscle gains versus fat storage. So, you know, it sounds like 2,400 is probably your maintenance level of calories. So you could, you know, do a gradual increase up to, what is 120% of 2,400? Oh, 2,800. The number that we calculated, 2,880 would be like a clean bulk level for you at 20% above your maintenance level of calories. So you could try that. Is my weight so far fine for my height as in healthy? I don't put a lot of emphasis on weight to height ratio. Here's the thing. BMI, that like comparison of like your height to your weight, is not a good indicator of health. The only thing that it is helpful for, if you have a lot of body fat, as you lose that body fat, then as BMI gets lower, then yeah, that can be a good indicator of improved health. If your, you know, body fat is also correlated with other actual good markers of health. So if the concern is health, right? If the concern is health, I would not necessarily use body weight as the number one indicator of am I healthy or not? Am I healthy or not is much better answered by looking at your heart rate, like your resting heart rate levels. Is your resting heart rate level at a healthy level? For normal, healthy resting heart rate, that's between 60 and 100 beats per minute. What are your cholesterol levels? Are your cholesterol levels healthy? Are your blood pressure levels healthy? If we're thinking about like body fat, rather than BMI, I'm more interested in the waist to hip ratio, like how much belly fat you have. Waist to hip ratio. For a woman, it's better to have 0.85 or less if you divide your waist by your hip circumference. Those are much better indicators of health than body weight, because as you build muscle, as you become more and more of a muscle mommy, your BMI is going to go up. And it may even go to the point where it says you're overweight or you're obese even. One of my good buddies, Uber Cruiser, I don't know if he's here in the chat right now. He is humongous. It's all muscle. It's all muscle. He is strong as fuck, okay? He is an ex-competitive MMA fighter. Now he does powerlifting, and he's a big, very strong dude. Very healthy body fat percentage as well, but BMI has categorized him as obese. So that's why I don't really give a fuck much about body weight. It's more how much of your body weight is muscle versus fat, and then in terms of health, what are your other like body measurements, right? What are the actual indicators of health? Blood sugar levels or insulin levels, you know what I mean? Your waist to hip ratio is 0.75. Girl, you're fine. You are more than fine. You're good. You're Gucci. You don't have to worry. You're fine. Don't worry about BMI. BMI is not for muscle mommies. BMI does not apply if you're a muscle mommy, because your body is gonna have more muscle, and you may even look like you shouldn't weigh what you weigh because muscle's so dense, right? Muscle is heavy but dense, so it takes up less space than fat. So I wouldn't worry about your weight. Now, if you want to be more muscular in order to build strength, yeah, building muscle is going to allow you to have more strength, because more muscle means that you have more horsepower, right, to work with. So you could bulk, and I wouldn't worry about it making you unhealthy, as long as you keep it healthy at the healthy levels, right? 20% above your maintenance level of calories. Do that. You could do that for as long as you want. You're gonna see less like negative impact by doing a lean bulk for a long period of time than you will see if you were in a calorie deficit for a long period of time. Our bodies do not like to be at calorie deficits. People do not do well when they're cutting for a really long time. But bulking you can do for forever, really. As long as you are keeping your protein high, you're working hard in the gym, as hard as you need to build muscle, and your sleep is okay. And as long as your other health indicators are good, you're Gucci. I wouldn't worry about it. Go for it. Your cholesterol and blood's fine. Blood sugar isn't high. Yeah, you're good. I wouldn't worry about it. Your waist to hip ratio is good. Yeah, I think shoot for the stars. Like, I think you're gonna be fine. I wouldn't worry about gaining a bunch of fat and fucking up, losing any fat loss progress that you've made after having the babies, especially if you are staying your body fat is already super low. Yeah, your body fat is incredibly low. For a woman, we don't really like to go below 15%. Yeah, so you definitely, post-pregnancy is at 20. Yeah, that's normal. That's normal. So is the worry here that you're gonna bulk and you're gonna lose that fat loss progress? Because I don't think you should worry about that, because especially, after being at 2,400 calories, you can maintain at 2,400 calories. You've done that for 3 years, right? You can do that. So I don't think that you should worry about losing all of your progress by going into a slight, surplus, because especially if you're keeping it at no more than 20% above your calories, you know that most of that is going to go to muscle anyway. Now, if you wanted to keep it super, super lean, if you wanted to be super, super lean, it will be super, super slow, but you could keep it at 10% of a surplus. If you want, the closer you stay to maintenance, the slower your gains are going to be, but you're a lot less likely to put on fat. So if you think it's going to fuck with your head, seeing your body fat increase, which, the higher you go, there's more likelihood that some of that gain is going to be fat. And that's just something you kind of have to make peace with, that you're going to look a little fluffier than you did, a couple months ago. But most people who are successful and successfully bulking and then doing a shortcut to kind of like get their body fat percentage down and really improve their physique, the ones who are most successful are the ones who are able to stick it out in that uncomfortable place where you're like, I'm looking a little thick and juicy right now, right? You kind of have to prepare yourself mentally that you're not gonna be as lean as you are now. You're gonna see less muscle definition as you build muscle because some of that body fat is going to come up. It's kind of inevitable. It's hard to not put any fat on when you bulk, and you have to be okay with that. You have to make peace with that. If you can stick it out and you can be like, it's okay, I'm a little fluffy now, but I'm gonna trim off that fat later when I transition into a cut, then you are going to see a massive transformation if you can stick it out, right? You are maintaining with this 5 to 6 hours of sleep, so I hope I'll get more sleep as I'm breaking up with my boyfriend who is sort of adding stress. Let's go! Fucking gains across the board, girl. Yeah, I love this idea. Can you have 16% body fat while also being 225? I don't know, because the thing is, I don't know how fast your body is gonna build muscle. So as you go up in muscle, it's not going to be linear progress, just like fat loss isn't a linear process either. So the main thing to look for is, am I progressing? Is my performance progressing? Am I doing more reps? Am I doing more weight over time? That tells you that you are building muscle. And then, are you seeing the scale either maintain, like you're not gaining any weight, or it's just gaining very gradually? We don't want to see any like huge jumps, right? Because the faster that you gain weight, the more likely that some of that weight gain is going to be fat. So nice and slow and steady. But again, 10 to 20% above your maintenance calories should be just right, especially if you're sleeping well and you're training like you need to in the gym. Don't worry so much about the weight. It's more, you know, what you want to do, like your primary goal of bulking, right, is to get stronger, is to be able to lift more and be stronger. So I wouldn't get so hung up and focused on what exactly your body weight needs to be. The goal is to kind of like gain X amount of muscle, right? X amount of pounds, so that you can lift more, so that you can get like heavier lifts, right? Oh, your core is visible at this weight. You wouldn't want that to go. That's gonna be hard because, yeah, it's another thing you have to prepare yourself for, because you will lose belly definition, and it is hard to watch that go. It is hard to watch that go. But, you know, if you do the 10% bulk, where you're just eating, what, 2,400 calories? I'm sorry, you're at 2,400 calories. So if you go at a smaller bulk and you eat 2,600 calories, I mean, you might be able to hold on to some of that muscle definition. It's just you have to decide in your mind what's more important. Is it more important to get more gains faster so that you can get stronger faster? Is that worth temporarily losing some core definition, some definition of your abs? Or is it more important to you to maintain your body fat percentage while you very, very slowly gain muscle and get stronger? So what do you want more immediately? I think if it were me, if I were your trainer, and I'm not your trainer, but if I were your trainer and I was pacing you, I'd say, let's just do a 10% increase. Let's go super, super slow. And then let's do that for just 4 weeks, okay? Let's work for 4 weeks at 10% above your maintenance level. And then we'll reassess. That will give you time to see some gains and also assess how much it is worth for you to, like, you know, lose some core definition. Because you might, even at 10%, you still might lose some, maybe. But it might give you some time to kind of unlatch from that idea. That's a ramp up, right? Like, you got 4 weeks to eat a very small surplus and prepare yourself emotionally for adding another 10% to your surplus, and just be prepared that some of that definition is going to go away. And do that for 4 weeks, right? The second 4 weeks would be that 20% above maintenance. Do that for 4 weeks and then reassess. If you hate it and you're like, I can't see my abs anymore, I fucking hate this shit, it's not worth it. I know that I'm getting stronger and my lifts are going up and I feel amazing in the gym, but I want to see my abs, damn it, then cut back down to 10% again. You can go very slow with this, very gradually change what you're doing, and it will not take away your gains. You're not going to immediately lose your ab definition, and you're not immediately going to, you know what I mean? So why don't you give yourself sort of a ramp up, like a little baby bulk, you know? Give yourself a little baby bulk period. And then if you like the pace that you're gaining, if you like the pace at which you're able to add more reps and add more weight, and you're also happy with your body fat percentage, then you could just keep going with that for a while. But nothing is gonna change overnight. You got plenty of time to adjust mentally. I think in terms of body fat percentage right now, you're really low. You're really, really low. So I would, in terms of health, you have a lot of body fat that you could gain and still be healthy and still be fit and athletic. If I'm maxing at 120 pounds, is there any point increasing strength while compromising core visibility? Well, the compromising core visibility would be a temporary thing. And that's something you have to know going into your bulk as well. It's temporary, because what most people do is in the short term, sacrifice muscle definition in order to get strong faster and maximize muscle gains. And then once they have reached a certain amount of gains, either a certain amount of weight that they wanted to gain in muscle, or they've reached a point where they're lifting as much as they want to lift, then they will transition back towards maintenance and then into a cut phase. And a lot of times, if they're like really trying for strength, that will be a very, very, very small deficit of 20% below maintenance. And at 20% below maintenance, athletes are able to still build muscle and burn fat at the same time. And you're like more on the athletic side too, with where you are in terms of your performance and in terms of your activity levels. So that would be a point where, you kind of are putting it for the future. If you can be like, this is a temporary thing, and I will trim that fat off in the future. But most people do not stay super, super chiseled all the time. Most people, when you're like super ripped, like that is like a small portion of the year. Because if you stay like that, you really are kind of capping yourself at how much you can gain in terms of your strength when you stay super, super lean. It's just really hard to gain muscle when you're when you're eating a super low level of calories. If you want to make a dramatic change to your body, then you'll have to kind of make more dramatic changes to your diet. The muscle definition will come back once you go into your cut phase and you trim off. The goal of your cut phase would be to maintain as much of the weight that you've gained in muscle and not lose the muscle, but just trim the fat. But you will be heavier because your body will just be more dense. Your body fat percentage at that point is the thing that you want to look at. In the future, you will be heavier, but also have that definition come back. And at that point, you'll be able to lift more and you'll be stronger. Yeah, the body fat percentage is a percentage of the weight. So regardless of whether you are 120 pounds or you are 220 pounds, what matters is how much of that weight is body fat and how much of that weight is muscle. So if you gain 15 pounds of muscle and your body fat percentage stays the same, you'll still have the same muscle definition that you like. It's just that you'll see more muscle because there will be more muscle there. Yeah, so no, you can get the muscle definition again. It's just that, if you are bulking at 20%, or if you're doing a dirty bulk, which is the other kind of bulk that a lot of people will do. A dirty bulk is when you're just like YOLO and you just eat whatever you want, maybe not even necessarily tracking calories, but you're definitely eating a surplus. It's just that you're not being careful. You're not tracking your calories. You're just like eating whatever. If you YOLO bulk or dirty bulk, then it is more likely that you'll gain weight and a higher percentage of the weight that you gain will be fat. If you clean bulk or lean bulk, keeping it between 10 and 20% above your maintenance level of calories, then that's how you can make sure that the majority of the weight that you are taking on is muscle, so that you can keep as much of that muscle definition and you can see your abs more, right? Versus just gaining a bunch of weight. So dirty bulk to 300 pounds then. No, don't do that, because that will fuck up your diet. That will fuck up your progress. Don't do that. And also, like, to get there, dirty bulking also, a lot of times people will be eating food that's just like really bad for them, like lots of saturated fat. And so when people dirty bulk, they also end up having like issues with their blood pressure or their cholesterol levels or their insulin levels. You know what I mean? So I do not recommend dirty bulking. When I administer bulks with my clients, I keep it to 20% above maintenance level of calories, no more. And then, we have our treat days, right? We do factor in vacations and, treat days where it's like, you go a little bit higher, or YOLO, go on vacation, enjoy it. Your body's gonna reflect what you do most of the time. At what weight should you stop bulking completely? That is a personal question. That's for you to answer. But I will say most people have a limit to how much muscle they can build naturally. And we call that genetic potential. So everybody has like a genetic potential limit of how much muscle you can build without having to go on steroids. And when you reach that point where, like, no matter what you do, you've changed your workouts, you're training towards muscle failure, you're eating as much as you need to eat, and the scale isn't moving, and you're also just struggling to add more weight, add more reps, that would be the natural stopping point. Most people never, ever, ever reach their potential. I don't recommend steroids. It'll fuck you up. It'll fuck you up. Don't even think about steroids. I do not recommend it. I have friends who do it. It will fuck you up. That's my recommendation. I do not recommend steroids. So, I don't think you even have to worry about a stopping point. I will say, though, the way that a lot of people kind of approach their bulk in terms of, like, when are they going to stop, there's a couple of different approaches. One is you can bulk indefinitely until you reach your genetic potential. And then you're like, I've done it. I am the ultimate muscle mommy. I am an Amazon warrior princess. And just enjoy it. So that would be, that will take years, decades to reach that point. Another way that some people approach it, like my friend Krista and her husband Joey, or Terrible Hime, she stops her bulk when she feels like, okay, now I'm just a lot fluffier than what I can handle mentally. I need to start trimming off some fat. It's getting to the point where I really hate what I see in the mirror. This is way too fluffy. I don't like this. Let's do a shortcut phase. And then some people will set a limit in terms of like how many pounds or kilograms they want, and then they'll stop their bulk once they reach that amount of weight. You could do either of those options, any of those options. But again, just know that your body is not going to change overnight. You're not going to see any huge drastic change. So if you are hating what's happening, or if you feel like you're not making enough progress, or if you feel like you're losing more definition than you want to live with, then you can always switch gears, switch tacks, and kind of take it down a notch. You can't bulk more than 15 pounds at a time? Okay, if you know that about yourself, then that's your goal. Just bulk up to 15 pounds, do it in a really controlled way, very careful and slowly. And then once you get to that 15 pounds, I would recommend planning to transition out of your bulk to a period of maintenance, where you're eating your maintenance level of calories. Keep in mind that as you build muscle, though, your maintenance level of calories is also probably going to go up. You're probably going to need to eat more than 2,400 calories once you reach your bulk goal. Also, as you are trying to get to 15 pounds, you may reach a point where, because you've built more muscle, you may need to increase the amount of calories that you're eating in order to continue building towards 15 pounds. So you may have to adjust your calories 6-7 weeks in, because your maintenance level of calories goes up. Your maintenance level of calories goes up and down according to how much muscle you have. So keep that in mind. If you're seeing like your bulk is slowing down and you're sticking to your calories, but you're like not seeing gains like you were initially, it's likely because now your body is spending more calories. So you need to bump up your calories again. And when you go to find your maintenance level of calories at the end of your bulk, just gradually reduce 100 to 250 calories at a time for 1 week and see how your body weight responds. And just do that until your body weight stays the same. But I say go for it. If you were my client, I'd say, yeah, go for it. I think you got this. But just make sure that you get on a program so that, and keep the consistent routine for 6 to 12 weeks or however long it is that you are in your bulk, because that will tell you as your weight goes up whether that weight is muscle and strength. As you can see, you're able to do more reps and more weight over time. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Coaching Corner podcast. I hope that you found this episode's discussion to be helpful in thinking about how you are going to go about the next phase in your personal fitness journey, whether you're going to be bulking, cutting, or if you're aiming for a recomp or maintenance phase. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. You can also sign up for my membership site and leave your questions and comments in the posts. You can also ask your questions live when I'm live on my Twitch channel on Tuesdays and other times throughout the week as I have time. Just go to twitch.tv/Jaydigains to give me a follow or a subscribe if you'd like to support the channel. And that's it for today's episode. I hope that you have a good rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.